Hey guys, welcome to my channel, and in this video we are going to talk about India and Israel's strategic diversification. Now, what exactly am I talking about when I'm saying that India-Israel strategic diversification? See, India's Prime Minister Modi, he's visiting Israel right now, and over there they're going to sign quite a few deals. There is already a talk on India Israel free trade agreement, which has been postponed 8 times already before for many reasons, different reasons, and I'll talk about all that in a different video. Okay, but in this video I'm just gonna focus on something that is very important. That important thing is that Israel's Iron Dome. Now, what exactly is going on? Why Prime Minister Modi is visiting over there, and how all this Iron Dome and what is this all this strategic diversification, all this game that's going on, especially in the backdrop of all this the tension that's there with Iran. As the US Navy has already built up over there, US military is all making all those threats and everything else. So, what exactly is going on here? Okay, so let's talk about that. Let's get started and let's get going. Please do like and subscribe. And here we go. So, now, first of all, let me actually set up something and I'm gonna show you. Okay, just a few days ago, or just say on in January. Okay, in January, Israel's Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu actually made this statement in the backdrop of this whole Iran and his Gaza war and everything else. What he said is this is very important for us to look at. And somehow, and I'll tell you this, somehow this news did not make the headline. People just nobody talked about it, but it's very important. All right. So here's what he said: we paid a heavy price in the war. Many fell because Gaza was booby trapped and we lacked enough ammunition, partly due to an embargo. Keyword is partly due to an embargo. I decided this must never happen again. Israel must build a strong independent arms industry. Just as we freed ourselves from American economic aid and strengthened our economy, we must now reach security maturity as well. So, security maturity from who though? Security maturity away from United States. The complete dependence on United States is a bad idea. Why? See, there is something that Bibi Netanyahu knows that nobody, probably we all know, or maybe somebody knows, somebody doesn't, right? And he's saying that he's giving that message here very clearly. Now, two things here. Let's dissect it, okay? First thing, he said due to an embargo. Whose embargo? And then reach security maturity. And actually, what if I told you that these two things are linked? They're linked because during Biden administration was not giving Israel the free hand to do whatever they wanted to do or to handle the situation in Gaza. In fact, there was news about this whole thing that Biden and Prime Minister Netanyahu actually got into this whole pissing contest as well, the yelling, screaming at each other, that type of. And so there was clearly an embargo. And then on the other hand, there is another thing too, that there has been news and there has been very strong signals. In fact, if you look into it, then what happened during 2024 and in 2025, where you saw and where we saw the protests, Iranian protests, Palestinian protests, and all kinds of protests in the United States. Okay, lots of those things happen, right? So what does that tell you? That tells you that uh, the previous administration was also, there was news that previous administration was heavily involved in cahoots with or whatever with the Muslim Brotherhood. Okay, now Muslim Brotherhood is mainly supported by Egypt and Iran. Okay, and there is some part of Qatar to it too. Now there's some role. Now that's a different story though. But the point here is that all this happened, Israel clearly sees that today, let's say it's President Trump, but next day or some other time, what's going to happen is that it will be some other leadership in America. The way things are changing clearly, and he knows about it. Okay, Mossad is very active, and now look at New York. What happened in New York? Mamdani won the election, right? Mamdani won the election, and now what's happening over there? You're seeing all kinds of Islamification and all the political nonsense is going on. Then we saw a whole entire scam, the childcare scam, the daycare scam, the Somali, all the migrants that were brought in, right? All that scam that happened. But that's a different story. But how all that is linked to this whole thing is what I'm trying to talk about. Okay. So, with that, he realizes a threat. There is a threat perception here. Israelis, whatever you may say, okay, but Israelis have one thing very, it's like their radar is always on the alert. And that alert says the threat perception for the most part. I don't know how they missed the 7th October, and I think there's something internally is there involved, but that's their story. Okay. Anyways, that's their thing, not mine. Hmm? So, what they're saying is that we must now reach security maturity. Security maturity from who? United States, of course. The one single point of failure, the one single point of supply chain is a bad idea. Okay. And especially considering that US supply chain in itself is lagging behind in lots of things. Now, if you start to look at compare the US and Chinese supply chain as far as defense is concerned, you see that the amount of time US takes to build one destroyer, Chinese build 10 destroyers in that time frame. And that's 10 times better. So there is a big part in there. Now, also, if you look into India and US defense deal, what happened? In India and US defense deal, India had made lots of orders. They placed lots of orders of Apache. Then they had G404 engines and all these orders. Look what happened. The supply chain was so much busted that they couldn't even be delivered to India. Okay, so what does that tell you? That tells you that US cannot support Israel the way people think, or the way Israelis used to think in the past. So this whole Gaza thing that happened, and I'm not gonna call it a Gaza war actually. Why? Because war normally is between the two countries. This is Israel's operation, that is anti-terrorism operation. That's the right framing. But I don't know why media actually framed it as Gaza war. Because when you say Gaza war and actually you hide Gaza, hide Hamas, what Hamas did behind the Gaza, then it becomes a problem, right? And also there is certain framing called Israel Hamas war, but it's not Israel Hamas war. It's Israeli anti-terrorism operation against Hamas, which is hiding in Gaza. That's the right framing. But anyways, so this security maturity again away from US. Now, within a decade, I intend to end dependence on financial part of US, military aid, and move from aid to partnership. Now you have to understand, from aid to partnership, meaning that Israel is giving a very direct hint here, not even hint. Israel is direct messaging that hey, now we are open for partnerships. Whomever wants to join the partnership is most welcome. Now, we will pursue joint development and production of advanced weapons with the US and other partners like India and Germany. Okay, the countries that can actually produce and have the capability and have shown a rock solid performance of their equipment, and all three of those have done that. Okay, now and German engineering is world known, and India after Ops Sindur, India already showed the world its capabilities. Okay, then this will ensure independence, steady supply, and stronger alliances. He made these statements When? January 27th, around that time frame. Okay. So now let's come back to our topic. Now, after knowing all these things, uh, when we talk about Israel's defense and all that, right? So, what are the goals? The goals that Israel wants to achieve is number one is defense independence, joint development goals, that is, as in partnerships, security maturity. Okay. So, and then doctrine, our goal is simple, that never lack weapons again, meaning that Israel doesn't want to, as much as Israel has threats, Israel doesn't want to be in the embargo situation. Israel doesn't want to go and meet with some country's president day in and day out. Um the president who is actually aligned more with the Muslim Brotherhood or Israel's enemies. Let's not even call it Muslim Brotherhood or something else, something, but Israel's enemies. So that's what Israel doesn't want. All right. Now, so what exactly is going on here? Okay. First of all, the defense deal that India is very interested in. Okay. Now let's get back to the point. Okay. Now this whole story actually becomes more and more extraordinary. All right. Now India is going to buy what? India is going to actually not just buy, but actually Israel is transferring the technology altogether. Okay, and for what? For the Iron Dome, then Iron Beam, and it's gonna be the full. When they transfer the technology to Iron Dome technology to India, then India will be manufacturing the Iron Dome as well as the interceptors as well. Why? Because it's no point in making Iron Dome without manufacturing the interceptors. Now, now coming back to the whole thing, that why this whole thing is important, and the Iranian buildup, sorry, American buildup in the Strait of Hormuz and all that, right? Now, when Bibi Netanyahu, when I showed you what I showed you on the X post, so what Bibi Netanyahu was basically saying is that because of embargo, there are certain even bigger concerns. And one of those concerns is that Israel was running short on interceptors. After the 12-day war with Iran and after fighting Gaza, after intercepting all the cheap Hamas rockets and all that were being fired from Gaza to Israel, those Israel was running short on interceptors. That led to an even bigger problem. The bigger problem was that is when Israel tried to actually order it from US, then they simply raised their hands that hey, we cannot do anything about it. At least not right now. There is a supply chain shortage. Okay, that's what they were told. And if you notice that the US aircraft carrier was there in the Mediterranean during the 12-day war, and they did some interceptions for Israel as well. Okay, so but they were there because they just wanted to make sure that there are no Iranian vessels on the Mediterranean side of the waters to attack Israel. Basically, that's what the goal was as far as uh, the American aircraft carrier is concerned. Okay, because because all the tunnels and everything that you see in Gaza, so Hamas basically they moved through the water from Lebanon and they entered the tunnel. Okay, that's how they did all the work. But anyways, so this whole entire supply chain shortage made Israel think as to what do we do now. Okay, and they are still short of interceptors. That's why there is a huge buildup in the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, Israel is straight up running short of interceptors. They cannot intercept any more Iranian missiles, long range missiles. And this is why the deal is of Iron Dome, Iron Beam, and then also uh, India and Israel are also talking about the anti ballistic missile defense system as well. Why? Because now Iran has ballistic missiles too. So all those things are being discussed. Okay. Now, there was another thing that happened during this whole process. Okay. The what exactly happened in this whole entire thing was that Hamas had a very simple goal. Okay. Goal was just create I'll say Hamas and Iran joint in cahoots. Okay. The goal was very simple, that build so many cheap rockets and fire them. So you fire what, 10 rockets, then at least there will be, then the it will overwhelm the Iron Dome. Now, Iron Dome rocket, one rocket actually, one interceptor costs almost $50,000 compared to probably $1,000 worth of rocket that is fired by Hamas. So there is a big disparity there when it comes to the price, meaning that with that price tag, Israel won't be able to produce the interceptors after a while, and it will start to hurt their economy, considering Israel is a small country in size. Okay, so that was another factor that Israel had to take into account, that if these type of wars they lasted a little bit longer than 12 days or 15 days like that, right? Then how Israel is going to handle this, right? And considering the from 2022 to till now, the US was more involved in solving the whole Gaza problem, not because they had problem with Israel wagging Gaza or leveling Gaza. Israel has already leveled Gaza. Okay, they had what the problem was. What American problem, the not American problem, but what exactly that the real problem is, the if this war drags further, is going to impact Israel's economy. It already started to impact Israel's economy, and then it's gonna have an impact on American economy too. There's too many wars that are being dragged, too many things are going on, and getting involved and stuck into something like this. Because if US has to protect Israel, then American supply chain has to be at par with the whole entire problem, right? So this whole entire thing led to a supply chain problem. That supply chain basically reached a choke point, the bottleneck. And that bottleneck is what Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu, talked about in its exposed. And hence, they had to move forward with this whole entire deal with a trusted country, a trusted partner, that is India. Okay, so what Iron Dome actually will do is that India is going to manufacture Iron Dome, and also with that Iron Dome, India is also going to manufacture the your interceptors as well. Now, Iron Dome has 90% success rate, whereas India's Akash system has 100% success rate. So there are two solid uh, uh, your missile defense system, SAM systems, you can say. Okay. Now, what Iron Dome will do, India will manufacture it, and lots of it will be actually imported by India. India will buy it too. And then these things India is going to manufacture in a cheap way, and India is going to supply it to Israel as well. And also India is going to supply the interceptors as well. So this way, if there is a sticky situation for Israel, then India can easy peasy provide those interceptors to Israel in time. Now, the next thing that Israel is offering India is the Iron Beam. So Iron Beam basically is the next frontier. Basically, the 100 kilowatt directed energy weapon system is more like a railgun type situation. Okay, a laser weapon designed to destroy incoming drones, then designed to destroy rockets, mortars at negligible cost. Right, and this. I mean, so far the information that I have is there will be full technology transfer, but we will have to wait and see how this thing pans out. Okay, but based on my research, my information, Prime Minister Modi is there for this reason only. Actually, this is the primary reason. Why? Because India is also building a missile defense system to cover the entire country. There is a reason for it. See, if you look into India's map, what you see is that the bottom half of the map, the peninsula part of the map, is nothing but seaports. Okay, will be connected. Those ports will be connected through India's trade corridors all over the world. Okay, and hence they have very serious economic implications, and they need to be protected as well. So that's why India is going to protect all those things, and India is also planning to protect the its important cities. And as India grows over time, what you're going to see is that the need for that protection is only going to grow. So this is basically a proactive action by India to protect its cities, and those things are already under planning. I mean, cities that are under development plan and although they need to be protected as well, meaning that in the development plan, what you're doing is that you are adding a clause for security as well. So when the city will be developed, its security, its internal and external security will be planned according to that. All right. So now let's look into the economics of the laser warfare. What exactly happens? Now, when you look at this whole entire thing, it's like it's $2 versus $50,000 thing. Okay. And this is it's for example, let's say Iron Dome costs for 50,000 to $100,000 per missile. Okay. Then so what exactly happened here in this thing? Hamas and Houthi forces basically weaponized the cheapness and flooding defenses with low-cost drones to drain 100,000 interceptors. Iron Beam eliminates this asymmetry. Okay. Now, when we look at this thing, so Iron Beam cost was $2 because it's electricity only. Now, if Israel can produce enough electricity to take care of this business, then yeah, all good. But the question really is this, then how Israel is going to protect its nuclear reactors or the reactors that are producing electricity? So how Israel is going to handle that? But considering so not considering, but my concern will be this. My concern will be that um, if enough rockets are fired uh, where the electric infrastructure is, then chances are that those some of those rockets may hit the electric infrastructure. Now, uh, if that's gonna happen, how much it will be effective, only time will tell. But strategically, that becomes a choke point too. So I believe that Israel will probably figure a way out for the power structure too. How Israel is going to power its uh, the iron beam weapon. Okay, and this is going to be given to India as well. Now, when it will be given to India, then India will probably do some more research on it and figure out how to actually solve this electricity problem so that it doesn't become a single point of failure, right? Now, for India, it becomes very important because after Op Sindoor, there are lots and lots of drone threats along LOC. Then Pakistanis had fired lots of cheap Turkish drones and all that, and none of them work because this Turkish technology, what do you expect, is garbage. Then Chinese air defense systems were there. Then some Chinese drones were there. And the way China is actually developing its AI and autonomous systems and drone technology, then you have to be at par with that. You have to actually have the technology to counter all that in a cheap way. Now China's economy is very huge, so Chinese manufacturing is huge too. So to counter all that, India also needs iron beam, something that is cheap, that India can use to take out the drones and all that, right? So drone for something like laser, not the rocket or anything. Okay. So that's why India needs iron beam as well. And for Israel, iron beam matters. Why? Because it's beam, it's faster. You don't have to sit there and wait for a rocket to reach, sorry, interceptor to reach the rocket and all that, right? Laser is going to take care of business instantly almost, right? So that's another thing. So So this whole entire thing is there, and then range, weather, performance. You have to look into the whole entire cost advantage 25,000 times, right? Then cheap per engagement it will be. So these are the things that are that's what the main whole reason is, the economics of laser warfare. And the economics of the whole entire warfare actually is very important in this case too. That how do how a mid-sized economy like I would say Israel should tackle this type of situation. High tech is fine, but you have to be high tech and cost effective. Same thing with India. For India, money is not the problem. For India, the problem is the terrain. First of all, the terrain, because the threat vectors for India, those terrains are very difficult. Okay, so your interceptors may not be very effective at all times. All right, and its population is so much that even if you throw a rock, it's gonna hit somebody's head. So imagine what happens when the rockets are fired and if the rockets touch the ground, right? So those things are taken into account. So that's why the economics of laser warfare and the laser warfare becomes very important. And India is working on its own Kali uh, energy weapon as well. Okay, so and like I explained lots of things, that why all these countries, why Israel needs it, why India needs it, and why exactly everything else is happening right now. The timing wise, let's talk about the timing. So why this week, why Prime Minister Modi actually visited Iran this week, sorry, Israel this week. The timing is that active US Iran tensions are going on, and there are some people who are saying that, oh, that's because so that that when Prime Minister Modi is there, then why in the meantime Israel can do the operation. So this way, while Israel is doing its active operation in Iran, Iran is not going to fire any missile. Why? Because India's PM is visiting Israel, and India will also not condemn Iran and all that either. See, anybody who thinks like that, you have a very monotonous type linear view of things. Okay, first of all, that if India wants to condemn or criticize anything, India will. But over there, Prime Minister Modi already said that India stands with Israel with full conviction in this moment and beyond. So message is very clear. Okay, message is very clear whose side India is on. So uh, there is no second thoughts about it. All right, now, and then other thing, timing is right, because there is another thread that is slowly and slowly trying to emerge, that is Saudi and Turkey alliance too. And Saudis have actually tried to do some defense pact and all that with Pakistan as well. And Pakistani, I mean, I don't know how how do I mean, whether to laugh at it or be concerned about it. Why? Because what exactly Pakistan and Saudi defense pact, the attack on one will be considered attack on another, is going to do anything? Simply because I'll give you an example of 1971 war. In 1971 war, United States was fully sided, was on fully side on the on the side of Pakistan. It was 100% on the side of Pakistan. Okay, but India did what India had to do. India broke Pakistan into two pieces, and US had sent its the seventh fleet in the Indian Ocean to scare India, whatever. So basically what Indians did is Indians said that, okay, you got allies, US and UK are coming. All right, so be it. We will show you we got some things too. Then Soviet submarine, nuclear submarine showed up over there. They didn't do much. They just showed up. Okay, hey, we're here. And guess what? US and UK fleets, they just turned around and they just left. The point I'm trying to make here is that, and just recently, Op Sindoor, India whacked Pakistan in 4 days. all the infrastructure, everything gone. So the question really is that what Pakistan is going to do to help Saudis. And so, but anyway, that's not our discussion here, right? And then Saudi and Turkey, they are trying to develop something too. They already are working on some trade corridors and all that. So Turkey's regional ambition could create a problem in the Mediterranean. Mediterranean meaning that Haifa port and all that, all those things could become a risk. So Israel's the goal is to make sure that Turkey doesn't rise and there are not other problems, right? So all this timing that is there, it's basically a perfect messaging to Pakistanis that hey, your time is coming. Okay, not maybe not Saudis, but other two. So, what else do we really need to watch? You had to watch it. First of all, we will have to watch for what technology transfer confirmation, and we have to watch for Iranian response in this whole thing. See, Iran's response is already there. Iran has already responded. Iran's already said that oh, India is our friend. India is a friendly country. This, that, blah, blah, blah. We don't have problem with anything. We don't even have problem with Israel, and we're good. This, that, and Iran is quiet. Now, here's the another interesting thing that happened that nobody's talking about, but Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu actually he said this in his speech while Prime Minister Modi was there. He talked about Iranian forces, how Iranian forces helped fight the Turkish during the World War One, and then how Indian soldiers actually helped, gave their life to save Israel. He talked about the Iranian soldiers too. Now the question is that a messaging? Now, if you look into it a little bit closely, what do you think? In that region, Iran, every country over there is that's there, basically they're enemy of Iran one way or the other. They just are opposite to Iran. Okay. And Israel is in the same boat. Yes, they are all pretending to be friends and all because they know they cannot do anything. But at the end of the day, at the core, they don't like Israel very much either. So So there could be some developments between Iran and Israel down the line too. And it is always in best interest of Israel and Iran to be friendly to each other. Friendly in the sense that, hey, don't cause unnecessary chaos if you don't have to. Hmm? Then also another thing that we have to watch is India's UN and Gulf positioning that uh, how India votes when it comes to Israel, Gaza, and all that. If they abstain or they do something else, how they handle that, right? And then uh, US reaction. Actually, US reaction will not be a problem. Why? Because of the I2U2 and the hexagon that Israel is proposing, and that is gonna be accepted by India as well because in the West Asia or the Middle East, this is needed at this point for balancing. This is what you deal with when you are in multipolar world. What do you deal with in a multipolar world? You deal in a multipolar world, the most important thing is the balancing. You have to work on the balancing. If there is a shift in the balance of power in one region, then you have to do something. At least the great powers in over there have to do something to make sure that that balance is not one sided. For example, in the Middle East, at this point, uh, after all the problems and things, then balance was shifting a little bit against Israel. That balance needs to be there. And also, alignment has to be made so that no other power actually or regional power tries to, you know, rise and shift the balance somehow. Okay, so this balancing is gonna be there. We will see this balancing more and more down the line as well. Okay, so this is it for this video, guys. I hope you loved it. I hope you enjoy, you learned something, and this is it. And please do like and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys in another video. Take care.